Welcome to The Secret Witch Show, the podcast providing a safe and alchemical altar space of conversations which help powerful women escape a half-hearted, spiritless society and rediscover the freedom of living a wildly magical life. Every other week, we explore how to cast aside the wounds of shame, guilt, and fear connected with fully being yourself, so you can grant yourself permission to stop hiding, ground soulfully back into your body, illuminate your whole soul desires, tend your soul, rediscover and reclaim your powerful gifts, express your magic, and manifest your wildest alchemy. There's no better place to become who your heart longs to be. This is where we will guide you into liberation. I'm your host, Nicole Barton, and I'm so excited to dive in. Welcome, magical ones, and oh my, have I been in a portal. I have literally been to the depths of the void and back in the last few weeks, and I can honestly say I am literally rebirthed in ways that I did not think that I would be. Like the stuff that has been coming to me from spirit for the last few weeks has literally created ruptures that I just did not expect. So today's episode is being created from that very darker energetic that I am being called to serve in the name of truth. And more importantly, being my full self, which I'll go into in the episode. But this rupture is going to ripple out into all that I am creating, and I'm excited for it. If you are here for the darkness, for the fire, then you're going to love it. And at the moment, I'm feeling called to show up more on Instagram. So if you are not yet following me, but would love to see what I'm going to be creating, then follow me on I am Nicole Barton, and I will be sharing more there. On the Secret Witch Show today, I explore how unconscious distraction and chaos stops you living your soul's purpose and expressing your gifts. And I dived into all the ways that magical ones typically distract from their mission and why, and explained how we can own our power. In this episode, I also explored my own journey with liberating my voice and serving my medicine, and all the distractions that I faced along the way, as well as showing how I was actually the creatrix of them, and how owning my power helped me to keep showing up. So let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to The Secret Witch Show. We are here to talk to one of the topics that magical ones created or voted for, let's say, in Secret Witch Society, and is how unconscious distraction and chaos pulls you from your true soul purpose. And this is a juicy topic. I personally, I think this is the first topic where I've wanted something else to be chosen, and now this is here to speak to. I can totally see, given what I've been experiencing recently, I can totally see why this episode has been selected, even when I didn't want it to. The other episode, ironically, was likely me desiring a distraction from showing up as my full self in this episode. So it's magically perfect that we are here talking to this. So let's dive in. I am going to hold the sensation of showing up as me. This is something I have really been into the dark depths, the void, recently over, and when I say recently, sort of the last 6 months really. And it is time for me to show up more fully than I have been. So yeah, you may well notice over the next lifetime of the podcast that I am showing up with a different energetic. The vision for this episode that I've created is powerful, truthful, kinky, magical and loving. And the remedy that I'm kind of dosing I've chosen consciously not to dose my remedies with the full power. In fact, not consciously dosing them at all, although there is a kind of low potency vibe that you will get from my truth, but I'm not consciously and intentionally dosing them outside of my crucibles as I was starting to do, because I've really found that there's a deep honouring of the remedies themselves that needs to be created, but also it just doesn't feel aligned to dose them with a remedy through listening to a podcast without them now having the support to alchemize the healing of that. But I've digressed a little bit there. Essentially, the remedy is one that I have had a big insight that is kind of the energetic of this podcast is about today. So I'm going to share a little bit more about that later. But for now, I just wanted to share a little bit more about the fact that recently I was really called into embodying and expressing a new energetic. And as I mentioned, this show will reflect that. And I wrote a post about this the other day in which I was sharing around how the temptation for me has been to show up in this nicey pastel swan energetic. And pastel swan is almost an avatar, an archetype in her own right that I was described as a few years ago now by a friend when I was collecting my own soul essence. And by that, I mean, that's an exercise that I guide my one-to-one women into, which I've also journeyed with myself, in which people reflect to us the aspects of us that we don't necessarily get to see. So they're essentially telling us what our qualities are and what we show up with and bring to a room. And Pastel Swan, when I received that reflection of me, triggered the shit out of me, because I was like, what the actual hell? Like, I am not a pastel swan. If any of my family had heard that description, I mean, they probably wouldn't have been too surprised, because they knew that I showed up a few years back really hiding my self-expression. But they would not have agreed with nicey pastel swan Nicole. That was just not a version of me that they got to see. And what I've realised is, although I've embraced that by sharing about the witch, and really embraced that kind of witchier side of me, I have still been showing up in my business, in my posts, on my podcast, in my crucibles, less so in my crucibles actually, interestingly, as a diluted version of me, as Pastel Swan. And it's been having real implications. What I've seen is, and I recently birthed a crucible called Medicine Woman. And what I saw was Medicine Woman is dark. Like the initiation that Medicine Woman has taken me into in the last 6 months is like the depths of nowhere I've been before. And what I'm seeing is there are different layers of her. And so people who are walking this path can often feel like, oh, well, I've already embodied Medicine Woman. And to a degree, that's true. Like, to a degree, a lot of my women are healers who have come here with gifts, and there is a level of Medicine Woman that they've embodied. So they might have embodied training in medicinal practices like holistic health practices, or energetic practices like Reiki, or they might have embodied her through kind of learning about manifestation. And there is a degree of Medicine Woman that is embodied in that, but it's kind of often the more light elements of the Medicine Woman. So it's really become present for me that Medicine Woman has a darkness, a depth that often women can think they have embodied, but they really haven't. And I know that because that's where she has dragged me to in the last 6 months. And so I'm calling her now the Dark Medicine Witch. Dark Medicine Witch energetic feels to be a much more accurate description of the depths that I'm being called into. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that later. But I'm sharing this now because Pastel Swan was a distraction. So we're talking about unconscious distractions pulling us from our soul's true purpose. Me showing up as Pastel Swan, which is not my truth. That's just a facade, a mask that I put on. Really, even though there was a level of medicine woman that I had embodied, it really impacted my business. I was magnetizing women to me who were out of alignment with the true depth, the true potency of the fiery work that we do in this path. And bless their hearts, innocently, they were coming in and buying into Pastel Swan and then receiving this like fiery potent medicine of Baba Yaga, which is an explosive combination when you've got women who are coming in, buying into Pastel Swan and receiving like a deep, dark medicine of truth. That is not going to work. And so this was a real distraction for me. And even though I created an absolutely amazing year in my work, it really is clear to me that this now needs to come from truth. And even more so. And it was innocently done because, again, like we talk about it as unconscious distraction. This wasn't something that I was aware of until I have been in this portal for the last 6 months of seeing this pattern. And so we talk about distraction and chaos. That itself, me being Pastel Swan rather than full expression of me, was a huge distraction for me recently. And I'm going to share more on that. But firstly, I just wanted to speak to the ways that this can show up for my women. So when I say my women, I mean secret witches. Secret witches are women who are deeply, deeply powerful, deeply magical, and they have gifts, and they know they have gifts, but they distract away from them. So this is what we mean by we talk about distraction and chaos pulling us from our soul's true purpose. The women who are drawn into my field, into my energetic, are here to be medicine women. They're here, or medicine witches, let's say, which is that kind of darker energetic. They're here to be healers. They're here with gifts. And yet, whilst they've got this inner fire, they are also struggling with this witch wound. The witch wound of like having to hide who they truly are, or feeling that need to hide who they truly are to be loved and approved of. And so this will show up in the ways that they distract. They will distract by playing the angel or the good girl, or something I've seen more recently, the submissive. And this means that they will do things like tend to the mundane and tend to everybody else's needs before their own. So her cup is never full. She always feels burned out. That she will distract by waiting to be rescued. This is, again, and I'm sharing all this around personal examples of how this has shown up in my own life sort of several years back now, when I came to see like this was the initiation that I was being called into. Other ways the secret witches will distract are not taking aligned action. She will feel something like the fact that she has this medicinal gift and she'll be like, hell no, I am not going there. Which leaves her kind of floating around, often loving the exploration of things like manifestation or magic, but not ever really putting that into some tangible witchy form. And that's what the witch is here for. She's here to be her full expression and manifest things on earth. Another way this can show up commonly is more in keeping with the mundane kind of way of being in the world, is my women will numb themselves. They'll numb themselves with distractions like TV, where they'll just cycle through Netflix and binge, which is absolutely perfect if that is aligned. And yet, if you're doing it as a distraction away from being your medicine, then it's something that is an unconscious distraction. She'll numb herself with food. This is something that I did. She'll numb herself with alcohol, with sex, with work. And she just kind of avoids being in that clarity around her soul's true purpose. She avoids even knowing what her vision is. if she does know what her vision is, and if she's a bit further down the path of kind of trying to be her medicine, she may well have trained in healing modalities and like then be trying to build her business and birth her business. She often will think that she has to have everything perfectly lined up before she births her business. She'll want the perfect website. She'll want to be very much in the masculine way of birthing a business into the world, or launching a business into the world, as she might call it. That kind of boss witch vibe, but also feeling like you have to be perfect and show up perfectly, which is still the good girl at the end of the day. No matter how rebelliously you're showing up, it's still the good girl. And she, even, as I said, distracts herself with manifestation and what I would call woo light, which isn't intrinsically light, but it's just the way it's been interacted with. So this is things like your magical Reiki healing, energy healing, manifestation work, coaching, like all of the stuff that we explore on this journey, that we then become, the way that we work with it is by expecting other people to heal us or fix us, rather than being here for the deep, dark, woo deep work, which is the work that I guide women into. So this is the deep, dark work of reclaiming our power and healing ourselves, particularly of the witch wound. So we can distract away from that with even the healing tools, especially if they are coming from the lens of trying to fix ourselves. Trying to fix ourselves is like perhaps actually the biggest. I hadn't thought about that when I was filling into this earlier, but like fixing ourselves is one of the biggest unconscious distractions that will pull you from your true purpose. Like the witch just really wants somebody to outsource her healing to, and she will spend a lifetime, if it's not pointed out and made conscious, she will spend a lifetime in that wound of trying to fix herself. And it's basically coming from the assumption that she's broken in the first place, which is not how I see things. I am here to activate you into your soul's wholeness, which is already there underneath all of these shadowy layers. These are all distractions, all the ways that the witch shows up distracting and creating chaos away from just being in her soul's gifts. The other way, so that's the angel, the good girl, submissive. The other way this can show up is that she will also flip to the opposite end of that shadow pole. Every shadow pole has two ends. Both are shadowy. So there's the angel, there's the devil, there's the good girl, there's the rebel, there's the submissive, there's the dominatrix. Now I'm going to be talking a bit more to her in a little while, but essentially this kind of end of the shadow pole will have her creating drama. It will have her essentially rebelling against everything. So and just creating chaos, utter chaos. And again, I say this because this is the end of the pole that I have predominantly inhabited, which will surprise many of the people who have followed me, because I come across as the more angel, nicey pastel swan that I was talking about. So creating drama, maybe things like her kids having some sort of major tantrum. These are personal examples that I can think of. She'll drive through a nail in a car park and then make a big drama out of it as if someone's done it on purpose. That was me. She'll have major dramas with her family, with her friends, huge explosive arguments where she's blaming and shaming and threatening to like exile the family and all sorts of like huge explosive drama. And she'll even have huge drama with random people as well who probably don't do what she wants. So she can become a tyrant in this energetic. And all of it is still a distraction, is particularly the chaos. I guess actually now I'm thinking about it, it's almost like angel creates distraction, whereas rebel creates chaos, which I really love actually now I've just seen that. But yeah, so rebel will melt down in public because no one helped her. I'm thinking about a time where I was at the dentist and there was no changing mat for Lily, and I just had a complete meltdown and essentially ended up threatening to sue them. And I'm looking back now like, what the hell? Like, what that shadow created was hilarious. And again, like there's no shaming in this. We have to often wobble through both ends of this pole. So you'll find yourself, even as you are walking the path of soul to your true self, you'll bounce between angel and devil. And that is perfectly part of the path. It's like once we've been in one end for so long, we have to experience the other end of the scale in order to like liberate ourselves. So there's no shaming in any of this, and that if you've been listening to any of my podcasts, you will know that love is the foundation of the path. So it really is true that all is welcome. And yeah, the other things like her order won't go through or won't be delivered, or it arrives damaged, and she's had to spend hours on the phone sorting that out. I'm thinking if you've ordered something from Amazon or something like that, there's always some kind of drama that the secret witch can create and chaos to avoid being in the deep work. She might end up in accident emergency for something that feels like it's really, really urgent and important. It turns out everything's fine, but she just had this kind of creation of drama and chaos that's like inbuilt into the witch. Like she there's like this real darkness, this real chaos, this real destructive, what we'd call in homeopathy the destruction miasm. And she will also burn herself down with self-doubt, criticism, fear of failure, which is something, again, it's like where she's harnessing her power and turning it inwards. This is a huge one for the secret witch. And again, will often lead to her having these huge emotional meltdowns. Also, that is part of this rebel side of the pole of distraction. She'll often explode her anger or her emotions everywhere, and that's innocent again because she's suppressed it for so long, playing angel. So angel will just suppress and numb and like not be in her anger or emotions at all. She'll just hide them away, again as almost another distraction away from seeing the truth, being with the truth, being her truth. Other ways that can show up is she could also have like a mysterious illness that no one can explain. And frequently when she hits up against something that is like a direct nudge to soul, she'll also hide away in bed. And I've spent a lifetime doing that. So I really know that one. And essentially, these are all ways that the secret witch can tangibly experience her distraction and chaos. And what I'm here to tell you is an activate for you so that you can really see like this is coming from a victim place. And again, for me to own that phrase, like this is you being a victim with the ultimate love, like that's an edgy thing for me to say because I also came up against what I'm now calling the victim slap in my own life, where I had felt like I wasn't a victim for like a lifetime, and I had suffered with chronic fatigue syndrome and didn't accept the label. I rejected it. I went into rebel of the label of chronic fatigue, and was like, no, I'm not having this. I am absolutely not being ill. And I can see now that that was me kind of being in victim to it, in that I was in the rebel end of that scale. I was rejecting the label. And on one hand, there's a power to that. There is a power to that. There's a power to the rebel. There's a power to being in the dark dominatrix and the devil. And still, it's destructive because it stopped me from really just seeing that I could express my truth, and that was what was making me sick in the first place, which I eventually alchemized. This is over a decade ago, and it's happened to me twice in my life. But for me to be called a victim at that point in my life was like a huge, massive victim slap, and I rejected it. I was like, no, I'm not a victim. I've literally done everything I can to be fixed from this and be healed. And I'd visited all the as I was talking about woo light healers, wanting to be fixed. And it wasn't until I began to see, oh, I'm a victim because I'm wanting to be fixed, that I then had that victim slap, and it kind of woke me up. And I took myself off to Bali for a month by myself, which is like the most edgy thing, the most edgy choice I could have made for myself at that point. Like, I was terrified. And that was the start of me reclaiming my power to heal myself. And I did. It took me a month. I ended up doing yoga for a month. Ended up, by the end of the month, was doing headstands and climbing mountains. So this was me. I'd gone from lying in bed to really reclaiming the wholeness of my soul and following soul and allowing that to be my guide into healing. So yeah, that was a bit about my journey. And until that moment, I had been distracting and creating chaos away from seeing my true power to heal myself from my soul's wholeness. Like, our souls know how to heal, and that's what I initiate women into. So there's no getting out of me giving them that victim slap and saying, you are not a victim, you are here for your power. Like, there's a reason why I say that. I'm not just like going around handing out victim slaps for the hell of it. Like, this isn't nice for me. This isn't in any way pleasurable for me to be dosing that, and it's necessary. So what I'm saying is, you won't have seen that there is a kinky pleasure to being in distraction and chaos, which there's the four kinky pleasures that are common, and there may be more, I don't know, like this is an inquiry for you to be with, but the four that I can see are: one, the secret witch doesn't want to take responsibility and own her power because she's scared of that. Again, this is all innocent. These are innocent kinky pleasures. Like, they want to be loved. We want to welcome in our kink. The second one, Caroline Elliott talks about this in her book Existential Kink, by the way, if you are wanting to dive a little bit deeper into that. The second one is that if you don't look at the ways that you distract and create chaos, you can stay approved of in your small life. You are not going to be judged as a selfish, narcissistic witch in the way that I have been judged recently. And I am now owning that narcissism, because being narcissistic, being deep in the depths of the work of self-inquiry, which is the path that I dose, is like a real gift. Like, for me to be able to see and illuminate the patterns that I can see about myself offers me the capacity to hold up a mirror for other women who really want to expand into their own gifts. So every wound has a gift, and yet you will be avoiding yours to stay approved of. The third one is that you can stay in control because you are safe in this linear world. Like, the unknown is edgy, so although distraction and chaos is something that you say you don't want, like you're fed up of, you're sick to your stomach of creating distraction and chaos, at the same time, it's what you know. And you're in control when ironically, you're in control when you're in that distraction and chaos, because it's what you've always known. Like, to not have distraction and chaos, what would that mean for you? What would that look like? You don't know. You don't know how that feels. And so you create more of it. And I'm going to speak to more about the creation of that, because you might also be like, well, I'm not creating that. That's just happening to me, which is another thing that the witch will feel. And again, victim slap. The fourth thing is, of course, that you can stay safe. If you are not hearing or honouring your soul's calls, the kinky pleasure in that is that you get to stay safe. And like, particularly when you think about if that's leading you to being a witch, the witch has not felt safe to express her voice, to express her true self. And yet, newsflash, the witch is not being killed anymore for using her voice and being her gifts. So why do secret witches distract? Well, it comes back to this remedy that I was talking about, which was anacardium. The remedy that I am talking to here, the remedy that I was invited into, and that I've seen is actually the deepest remedy, my core wound, the core gift that I'm here to dose, is anacardium. And like I say, like, this is not something that I wanted to be the case. We get called into, when we listen to soul, we get called into the depths of places that we don't want to go and things that we don't want to see. And the reason why Secret Witch distracts from this, from her soul, is that, and she thinks, actually, what she will see and she'll think is that it's because she can't see her power and she doesn't see that she has choice. But actually, it's not so much about her not having power, so much as underneath, when you dig a little bit deeper, typically the common fear that I see in secret witches is that if they actually embody their power and their soul, that it will be destructive, because that's all they've been used to creating with their power. And so distracting this way in and of itself is a kinkly pleasure that stops you from being in your soul's true purpose. And as soon as we start to get a glimpse of that, as soon as we start to see that actually we're here for something more, we're here for our gifts, we're here to be medicine women, we will come up against fear, we'll hit up against it, it'll be like literally hitting up against a brick wall. And so when that happens, and we even begin to get a glimpse of our vision, which can be really tricky for a woman who's a secret witch to see even, distraction will double down. So what's helpful to know here is that it's important to own our power. Like, we create this chaos, this distraction. And that might feel like a radical thing for you to know. The secret witch will see this chaos and distraction, and she will think that it is just something external that is happening to her. And that was me. I saw it like that. But we talk about manifestation. Like, the witch will have explored manifestation. She will see it as something to do. Again, like this kind of paradigm of like, you need to learn manifestation, because manifestation is going to fix you. You're going to be able to change your life using the tools that we manifest with. Like, we've been taught that, and it is a lie. Like, manifestation is something that is already happening. We are already creating, and whatever we focus on is going to create for us. If we are focusing on distraction and chaos and fear, guess what we're going to create? We're going to create more distraction, chaos, and fear. And there is a whole journey to liberating that. But just seeing that your old stories will be creating for you, manifestation isn't something that you need to learn to do. You are already doing it. You need to harness your focus towards what it is that you want. And the reason that you are not creating what you want is because of unconscious shadows. Until you look directly into those wounds, you will be creating from them, because you won't even know what they are. Like, most of the time, and this is why it's so important to do this work in a supported way, like, we can't see our own shadows because they're unconscious. That's the whole point of them. Like, these are fragmented parts of our souls that we have pushed into the darkness because we don't want to see them. And those are the pieces that are manifesting for us unconsciously. And this is why the work of owning our power and consciously choosing what we are creating is such the activating medicine. And it's the medicine that I'm here to dose. And I can't get away from victim slapping you out of that old way of seeing, which is innocent. Like, this is what you've been taught. And you need to know that you have power that is hiding underneath your shadows. It's not even hiding, like, it's creating for you. You are creating distraction and chaos with your power because you are unconscious to the fact that that is what's happening. So even just seeing that this is what's happening is going to change your life if you allow that to be the case. If you allow that truth to sink into your cells, to ripple its way through your body. And my example of this was when I had a paralysed face, and just after I'd given birth, in this portal of soul descent that I went into, I took this paralysed face to my soul guide. Like, my whole right side of my face was completely paralysed and numb from Bell's palsy, which then went into something else, synkinesis, which meant that my face would make all weird movements by itself as well when it started to recover. And this is something that I had been told by the mainstream medical system that I would never be able to heal. Like, this was going to be just how I was for the rest of my life. I just had to really force and massage it, and like massage it daily like I'd brush my teeth, and that I would never be able to recover. And I was like, what the hell? So I took it to my soul guide, and instead of the sympathy and victimhood that I was looking for, because I was in that unconscious pattern, she said to me, "Why have you created this, Nicole?" And I was like, what the actual fuck? Like, what the actual hell have you just asked me? And no way did I think that I had created a paralyzed face. Like, that just was not something that even occurred to me. Like, I was like, that is ridiculous. And again, it's that victim slap that was like, oh, this isn't how life works, that I know it as now in the mundane world, isn't how I think isn't how life actually works, like from the magical lens. And to be fair, it is hardcore to accept that you have created what you don't want. And this is why this isn't a path for everyone, but a witch is always creating. And my face was coming in, like, to show me, this wound was coming in to show me that I was a powerful creatrix. It was like this deep initiation into healing myself. Again, like, this is the wound of a lifetime that I've been spiraling into deeper depths of power in. And this was a huge portal for me. And I was again told it was unhealable, and yet I've healed by owning my power to create. When we own the power to create what we don't want, we also automatically own the power to create what we do want. Even and especially in the times of unconscious distraction and chaos that we just don't want to own. Let's take our breath. So yeah, I'm just going to share a little bit more about my own journey with this recently, because very much felt like, having said all that I've just said about owning our power, it's very much felt like I have been dragged into my true self-expression by soul for the last 6 months. Like, I cannot even describe. I'm not saying when we're owning our power, it won't feel like victim. in that there's like, yeah, just the depths of despair and darkness that we have to journey through. So I can't even describe to you the pain of the portal that I've been in. And I have essentially had 6 months of constant triggering of my abandonment wound, of my rejection wounding. And my little girl was just like in so much trauma, needed so much love. So I have had women outcast me from my sister circle, my sovereign circle. This is a personal circle. So, and yet when I looked, I was, again, like, we create everything ourselves. Like, how was I creating that? I was outcasting myself based on my old stories. I've had people describe me as a cult leader. And again, like, that was deeply triggering for my nervous system, and also the material for liberation that allowed me to step into the energetic that I'm showing up in now. And I've had friends leave because they didn't like my full expression. So I've been in the portal in all the ways for the last 6 months. And I can tell you now that I have wanted to distract, run away, abandon my own soul the entire way. I have resisted the hell out of it. And truly, just distraction after distraction, chaos. And it was needed. I needed to see my creation of it this way. I needed to see that I had choice. I could either submit to my soul, which is the way that it has to be in order for us to liberate our souls and express them, or I could submit to my unconscious fear of other people's views of me, of being rejected, of being abandoned. And yeah, I needed to see that I could lean into what was aligned. I could tend my nervous system. I could show up even more fully as myself, meaning that people would fall away in the rupture of being medicine witch, especially dark medicine witch, and speaking truth. People would fall away. And I could lean into that because that was aligned. Like, it's aligned for me to show up as my truth, as my medicine. Or I could give into fear and hide in my bed, watch TV, quit my business, and just give into chaos, drama, and distraction. And quite honestly, it's terrifying to lean into being the fiery me in public. It is making ripples throughout my entire business. Like, people are confused. Like, where the hell has Pastel Swan gone? And my offerings are becoming, like, new ones are flowing in that are really, really potent. And I'll give you another example of something that I've been called into. I woke up one day this week and in January, and I'm pretty open-minded about things that I receive from spirit, especially with my family who see the full fire in me. So I'm quite open, and that's probably demonstrated by the fact that the witch called me to her energetic by sending me the Grim Reaper in my as I was in my dream state, just heading off to sleep. The Grim Reaper appears and calls me into the witch, and I'm like, okay, this is something new, and this is how this whole podcast was born. But the other morning, I woke up with a vision of a dominatrix standing at the end of my bed, cracking a whip and wearing leather, which was obviously vegan. And I was like, what the actual fuck? I'm like, what the actual hell is this about? And I could feel that she was calling me. She was calling me to submit to her energetic, to embody her energetic, to be more fierce, to be the full power that I am, and to be my kinky, provocative self that I hadn't been being in my posts, in my work. And luckily, I knew that she represented one of our energetic archetypal apothecary remedies called anacardium, which I was mentioning earlier. And I have worked with this remedy. I say luckily that I knew that she represented anacardium. It wasn't really luckily because, as I say, I've worked with her more deeply just under a decade ago. And if you know anything of other archetypal work and you know Lilith, which you may do because she's the archetypal dark witch, that is the kind of energetic that anacardium brings. And so it didn't actually help to know that this was anacardium coming in. There's still a dominatrix standing at the end of my bed, and I'm still a fucking hell no to that energetic. And especially given that when I dosed and worked with anacardium just under a decade ago, her energetic had me have a healing response that had me literally smash a whole cupboard of plates from my cupboard when I realized that I'd created my life around a complete lie and been living a life that everyone else wanted me to. So anacardium has the angel on one shoulder and the devil on another. If you're in an anacardium state, often you will even see the angel and the devil on one side and the other, or you'll feel the presence of like both energetics within your life. So as I said, you'll show up as the angel, you show up as the devil, and kind of bounce between that polarity. And this is the dance for a secret witch. The angel will convince you to distract in all the ways where you sell your soul to others. The devil will have you rebel and create all the fiery chaos in your life. And neither one of those expressions is your true soul expression. And that is what anacardium calls you into. That is her gold. So the angel and the devil are her shadows. Her gold is seeing that this is something else available to you. This is a choice. And so if there is one fear that shows up for a magical woman who was born here to live out her gifts and dose her medicine to the world, to the collective, and make a difference, it is sharing her real self, her voice, and her gifts. That is like the deepest fear of my women. And so leaning into this in any way will instantly have her straight into fear and distraction, just like I was. And being herself is that true fear of the secret witch. When faced with the fear of being her real self and using her voice, she will instantly reach to distract unconsciously, especially if there's like aligned action involved. And the other thing she'll want is for it to feel easy. She'll have been taught by the spiritual paths and self-help paths that we just need to follow that feeling and to ease and flow in the feminine. And in my experience of the feminine, I've experienced both. I've very much, it feels that in my journey where I was very much into yin and like that spiritual path, it very much felt like that ease, that grace was a relief to be in. It was also another distraction. Like when you come to work with the dark feminine, then you will see like there is no feeling ready. There's no waiting to feel ready. There is only what is aligned and from soul. And truth bomb, you will never feel ready. If you do, or if you're waiting to, that is also a distraction in and of itself. So she will distract from her power in every way possible. And the real invitation to anyone who is resonating with this is to illuminate that this is the pattern and tend to that fear so that you can choose out of distraction. And this is the deep invitation of all of it. Like, the only remedy really for healing this unconscious distraction and chaos pattern that pulls you from your soul's true purpose is to choose out of it. And that's what anacardium is inviting us into, like choosing out of the angel or the devil and being yourself. And you're like, well, how? I know the question that is coming is how. That is just like one of the most commonly asked questions of my women. Like, how? Okay, well, I get it. I hear what you're saying, but how? And it is a deeper place this choice has to come from. But there are some ways that you can begin to even lean into this by noticing. So I'm going to leave you with some questions like, where am I distracting from the truth in my heart? Like, this is number one. Spend some time, grab a journal, a pen, and sit down, make yourself cozy. Like, this is deep work, you can still make yourself comfortable and tend your nervous system. Like, pop a candle on, give yourself a massage, like, yeah, really grab some cozy blankets and like be willing to go into the depths, like the truth. Where am I distracting from the truth in my heart? How does distraction show up for me? Like, which parts of this did you resonate with? Where are you resonating with some of the distractions that I've spoken to? Am I the angel in my distraction, or am I the devil? And will I love myself there? This last piece is really important. It is the key to deep healing. And we are going to be creating, I've downloaded something super special around all of this. So I'm going to be birthing that soon. It's not ready yet. I'm really in the kind of conscious creation of it at the moment. It's really feeling juicy. But if you have enjoyed this episode, then stay tuned. You might want to join us in our Secret Witch Society over on Facebook. I'm showing up more on Instagram these days as well. It feels like deeply aligned to start showing up that way, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So please do find me on Instagram at I am Nicole Barton. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to share. So I'm going to leave it there with love, and yeah, I will see you, speak to you, feel you very, very soon. A juicy episode today. Here are my takeaways. As magical ones, when we are called into living from truth and expressing our soul's gifts and medicine, we will hit up against fear, let me tell you. And fear will create distraction and chaos for us unconsciously. It is painful at times to own our witchy power, that we are even creating what we say we don't want. But when we look at that in the eyes, honestly, it offers us the chance to choose to own our power and create what we do want. Your shadow creates unconsciously, and that's why this is innocent, and it's important to love ourselves, as that's the only way that we can come back to our soul's wholeness, which really is the medicine we need. Our inner good girl shadow creates distractions, and our inner rebel shadow creates chaos, and neither are the real you. The invitation is to dive deeply into finding your voice, your true voice, which lies beyond this shadow polarity. And the gift is seeing that you have a choice in the first place. If you'd like to get the show notes and links for everything we've chatted about in this episode, head to www.secretwitch.co.uk. If you know a secret witch who would love this episode, please share with them to help them liberate themselves. And so you don't miss out on next week's episode, head to your podcast app of choice and hit subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.